Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to be taking a look at a really weird way to play Mewtwo and Mew. We all know that Mewtwo and Mew is good. We are well aware that Mewtwo is one of the very best decks in the format. We have seen Mewtwo and Mew be played with a whole bunch of different stuff. We've seen it played with Malamar. We've seen it played with Welder, and I even showed you a fairly weird, fun new way to play it recently with Rillaboom. But now, ladies and gentlemen, how about Butterfree? Yes, that's right, I said it. Actual, factual Butterfree. What is initially weirder is that it's not even a new Butterfree. It's a Butterfree that came out in Unbroken Bonds, the same set as Welder. So how come we were using Welder back when Unbroken Bonds came out, but it's taken us until now to start using Butterfree? Because Butterfree looks amazing. One colourless energy, search your deck for up to 3 basic energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Not only does it accelerate free energy in one go, which is awesome, but it also lets you play any type of energy you like. You can go nuts with different kinds of energy. You can play a really wide variety of Pokemon to cover basically any matchup, and then know that you've got the correct energy. Now, I've got 2 lists I'm going to show you today. One just plays Psychic Energy. The other one plays 6 different kinds of basic energy. So why weren't we using Butterfree earlier? It's a stage 2. Why are we using Butterfree now? Because we got a new Caterpie and a new Metapod. Now, I say new Caterpie and new Metapod, they are, but they've got the exact same abilities as the ones that we got in Flashfire, and then reprinted again in Generations. You can evolve them the turn you play them. Which means that Butterfree is a stage 2. You still need a basic, you still need a stage 1, you still need the stage 2. None of that has changed. The difference here is you can get it going in one turn. So if you go second, you can just go Caterpie, Metapod, Butterfree, triple charge. And then you're off. And you're rolling. And you're good. And here's another thing that you shouldn't be sleeping on. These are not entirely, but largely tag team decks. These are largely decks that are relying on tag team Pokemon, which is to say that they give up free prizes. Which means that if my opponent takes out 2 Butterfree, I don't care. And in fact, there is a huge bonus for my opponent taking out 2 Butterfree. You see, if they take out a Mewtwo and Mew, they have 3 prizes remaining, and if they KO a second Mewtwo and Mew, they win the game. If they KO 2 Butterfree and a Mewtwo and Mew, they have 1 prize card remaining. If they knock out anything, they win the game. But if all that is on the field is 3 prize tag team GXs, then my opponent has to KO a 3 prize tag team GX in order to win the game. Not only that, but it means that any reset stamp that I might drop, instead of putting them down to a 3 card hand, now puts them down to a 1 card hand. Played correctly, you can lose 2 Butterfree, and your opponent is actually in a worse position than they were in before they KO'd the Butterfree. That's kind of amazing. Okay, so big fans, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, big fans of Butterfree. But what else are we playing with it? Now, obviously, Mewtwo and Mew lets you copy the attacks of any EX or GX on your field or in your discard pile. But what are we playing it with? Well, the Psychic version is a much more straightforward version. The one that only plays Psychic Energy plays the newer Dragonite GX. That's the one that does 270 damage. That's a lot for 5 energy. But you're accelerating energy, so we're good. We also play Mimikyu and Gengar, although it's actually called Gengar and Mimikyu, mostly for the attack Poltergeist, which does 50 damage for each trainer card your opponent has in their hand. That's quite nice. Decent GX attack, that stops your opponent playing any cards next turn, and with an extra energy forces them and you to draw until you have 7 cards in hand, but mostly for Poltergeist. And then we've got the newer Saga Leo GX, the one that for 2 energy does 120 and accelerate a couple of energy. That's pretty good. And then, of course, you've got Butterfree in the early game, Saga Leo for a little bit of a late game top-up if you're in the mood for it. We've got Trevenant and Dusknoir, which is basically your hand disruption one. That's the one that does damage while going after your opponent's hand, which is incredibly useful. 150 damage for free energy, and you choose 2 random cards from your opponent's hand, and they shuffle them into their deck. Also, Pale Moon GX, 2 energy, the defending Pokemon is KO'd at the end of your opponent's next turn. If you add an extra Psychic energy, you discard all energy from them, in theory making it far more difficult for them to retreat, making it far more likely that they'll be in the active, ready for you to KO. And then we've actually got Saga Leo and Lunala, a card we don't see played very much at all. Not even in Mewtwo and Mew decks. But what it does, 4 energy, 230. And then there is a GX attack, but the GX attack relies on you having played Lily's Full Force from your hand during this turn, and the deck doesn't play Lily's Full Force, so I just don't care, frankly. Now, the Winner list plays a whole bunch of different basic energy, and it gets kind of weird, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we've still got Mewtwo and Mew, obviously. We've still got Trevenant and Dusknoir, but that's where we start to diverge rapidly. We do have a couple of Dedenne for a little bit of extra consistency, though do be careful if you leave your opponent on 1 prize and you've got 160 HP Dedenne out. You've been warned. And then we've got a whole bunch of attackers. We've got Garchomp and Giratina, which does big damage to any Pokemon that's already got damage counters on. It's also got a nice GX attack that gets rid of bench Pokemon, but you need a lot of fighting energy to make the most of it, and you're only playing 2 fighting energy. We then also see Gardevoir and Sylveon. Now, Gardevoir and Sylveon's got a really nice attack that just gets 2 fairy energy from your deck onto your Pokemon. Or you can do 150 and move your energy around. Now, this is particularly good in this deck because you're playing 6 different kinds of energy, but you're only playing 1 or 2 of each. So the goal here is, if you're ever stuck and you've got the wrong energy on the wrong Pokemon or whatever, you use Gardevoir and Sylveon to rearrange the energy, putting it where it needs to be. There is a really nice GX attack, but it revolves around you having 6 fairy energy, which we don't play. We do incidentally play 2 Aurora energy that can count as any of them, but 2 plus 2 is 4, not 6. Never mind. We've then got Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. Now that's the one that for free energy does 60 damage base, and then an extra 60 for each EX and GX your opponent has on the field. In many games it will be rubbish, but in any game where you're playing against a deck with lots of EXs and GXs, this becomes awesome. We do have a GX attack that will put a Pokemon to sleep and then do 200 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, but it's fine. It's just not a stunning GX attack. We have Latios GX here. That's the one that when you attack with it, it makes you immune to tag team Pokemon next turn. And there's still a lot of tag team Pokemon out there. We've got the Greninja that came around in Forbidden Light. There's been a few Greninja GX. I'm looking specifically at the one that came around in Forbidden Light. And this one really is for the attack Hey Slash, 110 damage, and you may shuffle it and all cards attached to it in your deck. It's alright. We do have a GX attack that does 130 to one of your opponent's bench, but again, it's a bit expensive and it's not terribly good. We then have Latios with Latias. Yeah, apparently Latios did not want to be 1 card in the deck. It wants to come out as a pair, which is quite lovely. And again, we're using the Psychic energy here, though we have lots of other types. And what we can do here, for 1 water, 2 Psychic, 1 colourless, 240, discard free, that's a lot. But for 1 Psychic Energy, attach 5 Basic Energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like. And if you have at least 1 extra energy on there, it basically makes you immune for a turn. So you can accelerate energy while having a turn of immunity. I don't mind that it's 240, although I don't think it's as good as Dragonite we see in the other deck, but I love the GX attack. Remember, when you're playing something like Welder or Rillaboom, you've still got the energy in the mid to late game, but one of the downsides of the Butterfree build is that you do run the risk of running out of energy and then not having a way to accelerate it. We then have 1 copy of Arceus and Dialga and Palkia, which does accelerate energy, accelerates free, and has a GX attack whereby every attack you do for the rest of the game will do an extra 30 damage and take an extra prize card. It's probably played for the GX attack. A lot of the time these things are. And finally, we've got Guzzlord and Naganadel. Whew, a lot of different Pokemon in this deck. And Naganadel and Guzzlord, as it is actually called, actually has a really nice ability that lets you discard a Pokemon and heal 60, and you can attack with this, so bear that in mind. Free energy 180. Turn all of your prize cards face up for 1 colorless energy, but if you've got a Psychic and a Darkness, you take 2 prize cards. It's got a GX attack that just lets you take 2 prizes. You'd better believe that this is a really, really good thing to do. Oh, and there's 1 copy of Fiona, which makes your opponent switch their active, and then it goes onto the bench so you don't deck out. Yes, it took that long in the video to explain all of the Pokemon. The good news is, when it comes round to trainers, we don't need to go into a huge amount of detail. Obviously, Quick Ball becomes amazing, because it searches out your basics, and you're largely playing basics here. Obviously, Evolution Incense is going to be pretty fun for searching out the part of your Butterfree line. But we're also playing Turffield Stadium here. It's a new stadium card that lets you search your deck for an evolved grass Pokemon and put it into your hand. Yeah, for getting your early Butterfree, that will get 1 of the 2. That's pretty gosh darn sweet. Now, we do see Tag Call because you're playing a whole bunch of Tag Team Pokemon, and that means that we open up Tag Team supporters as well. Cynthia and Caitlin is a no-brainer. It recovers supporter cards while drawing cards, and similarly Mallow and Lana switches while healing 120. It's another no-brainer when you're playing a bunch of Pokemon that give up free prizes. The version that plays Aurora Energy does play Guzma and Hala, because it's a really good way to search out that Aurora Energy, but the other version doesn't, so it doesn't. We also do see some Roxy coming in here, just for some extra draw. Usually we see Roxy played with the Coughing and Wheezing that let you deal damage when you discard them, but here we're just playing Roxy. Discard 2 cards from your hand, or 2 Pokemon, draw 3 for each one discarded. But remember, you're playing a bunch of Butterfree and you're only ever really going to want 1 Butterfree, so this essentially just gives you a bunch of fodder for Roxy, and we do see only 1 of them, but one of the decks does go pretty heavy on Roxy, and that's pretty gosh darned awesome. Outside of that, it's a lot of what you would expect, and there's no huge surprises. It's a fun way to play Mewtwo and Mew. And we've got 2 very different deck lists, but make no mistake about it, early indications are that this Butterfree could actually be good. Yeah, we had Caterpie and Metapod doing this in Flashfire, but we didn't have the right Butterfree. Now, if we start off quickly having a look at the list that plays a whole bunch of weird energy, we see 6 different kinds of basic energy and Aurora energy, and a wide variety of different Pokemon. We need water energy for Greninja, fairy energy for Gardevoir and Sylveon, and so on. If we take a look at the second list, it's far more straightforward. Fewer different weird Pokemon, just psychic energy, but this is the one that plays Roxy, and I love Roxy in here. It's a very good idea indeed. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, a different way to play Mewtwo and Mew. And I'm not entirely sure how much I'm buying it, how good I think it is. But the reality is it's already won a couple of tournaments, so it seems like the kind of thing that we do need to start taking seriously This looks like it could have some legs. But I'd like to know what you think, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to know how good you think it is. I'd like to know if it's the kind of deck you want to be playing. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have any Pokemon in, but are absolutely phenomenal regardless. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.